Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Today we have ourselves quite a show, as we have a lot to get into in the world of Southern California sports. As the Rams sadly lost to the Steelers, it looked like they were going to win, and sadly they just lost because, well, a questionable 4th and 1 call, which gave the other team a first down, sadly doomed them. But it shouldn't have gotten to that point. And the Chargers, to no one's surprise, lost to the Chiefs because they're the Chargers and the Chiefs are just way too good. Now the Chargers have to bounce back against the Bears on Sunday Night Football. Can they do so? Also, Angel City fell in the first round of the NWSL playoffs as their playoff run came to an end, as Wave FC will be taking on OL Reign, the team that beat Angel City in the semifinals. Can Wave FC pull off the upset? Also, the Lakers and Clippers are back in action as both teams have just completed their season openers. Were the Lakers victorious against the reigning champion Nuggets? And were the Clippers victorious against a rebuilding Portland Trailblazers team? Also, LAFC kicks off its title defense of the MLS playoffs against the Vancouver Whitecaps, whom they just played last week in Vancouver. All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Thursday afternoon, Thursday morning, Thursday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you have tuned into episode 154 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be live without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on Spreaker. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on formerly known as Twitter, X, Instagram, and on TikTok at IE Sports Radio. We also have a Facebook page, as all you just have to do is type in the word IE, then sports, then radio in the search bar, click on it, see our icon, and then boom, like us, and then that's how you're able to follow us on Facebook. We also have a website, www.iesportsradio.com, which is updated daily for all your latest sports news, our blog, our Hall of Fame, our Fans of the Month, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, our community forum, and we have a merchandise shop. Because for the past 9 years, going on 10, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. Shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, the single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, low in sugar, and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on, and all you have to do is visit www.planetjerky.net and place your order, and then you'll have that delicious Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky in your fingertips. Follow Planet Jerky on Instagram at Planet Jerky for all of your updates on the brand. Thank you once again, and a huge shout out to Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that is on a whole other planet. And the way you can follow the SoCal Supreme Sports Show on social media is via X at SoCal Show IESR. You can follow me, Teran Rodriguez 1, mainly on X at Teran Rodriguez 1. Instagram, I'm also there, but I don't really use it that much, except for Set Point. But regardless, thank Thank you for tuning in, and without any further delay, let us begin. So we have to start off with the NFL just because, again, the NFL is king. So we got to start off with, well, both the Rams and the Chargers started in chronological order. So let's start off with the Rams because they were in SoFi. So unfortunately for the Rams, they wound up losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers 24-17. I honestly thought the Rams were going to win this one. And I saw a weird but strange yet true stat that the Rams have lost six, maybe seven straight following a win, which is not good. This is dating back to last year, I assume. But honestly, this was a game that the Rams should have won. And they actually were doing a good job. They were up 9-3 at halftime, and then eventually they went up 17-10. Unfortunately for the Rams, they had missed field goals from Brett Maher, who eventually they cut, which, good for them. I thought the Chargers were the one that had kicking problems. And it was looking good through the first three quarters, but then the fourth quarter came up, and the Steelers realized they have some options offensively, such as Jalen Warren and Najee Harris. And eventually the Rams just could not get any points in the fourth quarter. And there was obviously the questionable fourth down call, or the fourth down call from the refs, as the Steelers went for it on 4th and 1, and all they just needed was 1 yard, and then they were to end the game. And then it looked very clear that the Steelers were short. Kenny Pickett dove for the first down marker. It looked like he was well short, but then unfortunately that was just a terrible spot from the refs, in my opinion, as he just got a nose of the football upon further review in. And honestly, I don't think the game was decided on that. And the worst part is that the Rams had 0 timeouts because it wasn't the 2-minute warning. They were just outside the 2-minute warning. There was like 2:02 remaining in the fourth quarter, and the Rams had no timeouts, so they couldn't challenge. So that was kind of how the Rams lost. And when it comes to the Steelers, it basically boils down to crazy, wacky, weird stuff like that. And for the Rams, the problem is that they were just not consistent enough all game. Matthew Stafford had a solid game, as he had 231 passing yards, but he was less than 50% accurate on his passes. He had a touchdown and an interception, as Puka Nacua continued his strong rookie season, as he had 154 receiving yards, which was quite nice. This is kind of where you miss Kyren Williams, as he was out, and he's not going to be back until after the Rams bye in Week 10, which is really sucky, as the Rams only had 135 rushing yards, as they split the time between Royce Freeman and Darrell Henderson Jr. And then the next receiving leader behind Puka Nacua was Tutu Atwell, who had only one catch for 31 yards. Even Cooper Kupp just was not on his A game. Matter of fact, Puka caught over half of the team's passes, which I don't know why Matthew Stafford isn't going to his favorite receiver, Cooper Kupp, which is a bummer. I know Cooper Kupp is trying to work his way back to 100%, but honestly, I just am concerned for the Rams' offense, because if they don't get all of their weapons involved, all of their receivers involved, they are going to have a massive uphill climb against some of these better teams, or some of these teams that are supposedly better. Like, I definitely think this was the game that the Rams could win 2 in a row and maybe get some more momentum going into their matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. But sadly, that was not the case, and the Rams sadly have to walk away with an L. And to me, I really don't think the first down call was what cost them the game. What cost the Rams the game was that they basically, again, they weren't productive in the fourth quarter, and they just did not make the plays to take down the Steelers, which is a bummer because I think the Rams definitely have the talent. They're just young and rebuilding, so that's just how it is sometimes. And the next 3 games are not going to be anywhere near easy for the Rams, as they've got the Cowboys in Jerry World, or Dallas, this upcoming Sunday. Then they have the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field, which I know the Packers are struggling, but the Rams always seem to lose in Lambeau Field. I don't know why, but maybe it's a SoCal thing. And then the Rams host the Seahawks, which I know Seattle lost to the Rams in Week 1, but that was all the way back in Week 1. I think the Seahawks are a much better team, even though they have their red zone struggles. Like the Rams aren't going to get a break when it comes to whatchamacallit, when it comes to like teams that they could beat until they play the Cardinals, which that will be in week number 12. And the bye for the Rams will be coming after the Packers game. So this is where you really got to step up if you're the Rams. And hopefully for their sake, they can. But against the Cowboys, look, that is a strong defense. And their offense is just as strong. It can be inconsistent at times, but I just don't think the Rams can pull off a win in Jerry World. They'd have to play extremely perfect. And not even the Chargers played perfect against the Cowboys. So I hate picking it against the Rams, but I think this is kind of the game where the Rams are just going to get bullied. Because their O-line is beaten up again. And I just don't think they have the O-line to deal with like Micah Parsons and all that, all those big boys up front and the whole entire Dallas front seven. Even though the Rams have suffered, or not the Rams, the Cowboys have suffered injuries to their key defensive players, I just really think that this one is not going to be won by the Rams. Even if it was in SoFi, I just think the Rams will lose this one. I don't think it'll be as ugly as it was, as most people think it is going to be, but I think the Rams are just going to lose a close one. I think it's going to kind of be like the Steelers game. I think the Rams are going to lose. It's a good score. What's a fair score for the Rams? The Rams will lose. I don't think the Cowboys will score 30. I mean, they couldn't even put up 30 against the Chargers' flimsy defense. Let's say 28-21. I think that sounds about right. I know the Rams just signed a new kicker to their practice squad and their event, or from the Colts practice squad to their roster, just because Brett Maher was just absolutely disappointing. And I have to give a shout out to my brother. He actually said that Brett Maher was not good, and he just wasn't cutting it. So he got the hook, and sadly, that was that for him and for Brett Maher and his stint as a Ram. But for the Rams, I got them losing. I just think that the next few games are going to be an uphill climb. I really don't want the Rams to lose. I think they have a solid team, but I just don't think they're going to survive in a little hostile environment such as Dallas. So, all in all, I got the Rams losing. It'll be close, though. I think the Rams will it'll probably be like the Steelers game, like I said. They'll probably lead for a bit, and then the Cowboys will just out-muscle them. But time will tell. All right, but that's that for the Rams. So, jumping over to the Chargers. Okay, this one was kind of close, but I just really think that this one wasn't as close as I thought it was going to be. Like, early on, the Chargers and the Chiefs were neck and neck. It was tied 3-3 at the end of the first quarter. It looked like it was going to be 17-17, but the Chargers' defense being as bad as it is, they unfortunately let the Chiefs eventually get that score, that touchdown, as Mahomes found Kelsey. And here's the thing for the Chargers. The Chargers always struggle when it comes to defending Travis Kelsey, and they were lucky to have Derwin James, but I don't even think he made the big-time difference. And I didn't really get a chance to see this game until I got home, till about, at the second quarter. And at halftime, it was 24-17 in favor of the Chiefs. And I give credit to the Chargers' defense a little bit. They didn't get blown out because it looked like Mahomes was going to pass for 600 yards. But that was not the case as the Chargers clamped down defensively. Unfortunately, they just didn't clamp down hard enough. And another sad thing is that the Chargers' offense just was stuck in neutral. Everyone says that the Chiefs' offense is good, and I totally agree. But their defense, to me, is vastly underrated. And honestly, I think that's kind of the underwhelming part. So honestly, for the Chargers, they just got shut out in the second half. And even when they lost Nick Bolton, or even when the Chiefs lost Nick Bolton, the Chargers just had zero answers for the Chiefs. And it sucks because I thought this was at least going to be a one-score game. I'd rather the Chargers lose. If there's ever a moment where the Chargers lose a one-score game, it's going to be to the Chiefs or a team that I certainly don't think they're ever going to beat. Yes, I made the prediction that the Chargers were going to possibly beat the Chiefs, but that's only because the Chargers always give the Chiefs trouble in Arrowhead, or at least some sort of battle. But this one wasn't really a battle, and honestly, I really think... I just thought that the Chargers had their chances. Like, they got to the red zone in the second half after they recovered a fumble from, I think his name is Blake Bell, but then in the red zone, Herbert's pass got deflected and intercepted. And the one thing that I don't think the Chargers knew is that the Chiefs lead the league in deflected passes, which is kind of a mind-boggling stat. And believe it or not, Justin Herbert is probably the one quarterback that always gets his passes batted down, even though he's like 6'6". And my thing is this. I really feel that maybe Kellen Moore should let Justin Herbert run with the ball. Yes, it's risky because you don't want your quarterback of the future getting hurt for the future. But honestly, I really think that letting Justin Herbert cook with the ball is what's going to truly matter. So all in all for the Chargers, it just was not a great game. I mean, it was great in the first half, but sadly they just fell apart, and it felt like a bunch of Jenga bricks just falling all over them when you make the wrong move. And it sucks because I really think Brandon Staley is getting his seat is getting very, very, very warm. Like, I just don't understand why the Chargers have not fired Brandon Staley. He should have been fired following the Jaguars' playoff loss. If not, he should be fired maybe next week, because the Chargers are 2-4 and they have so much talent on their team. But sadly, they're just not going anywhere. And then something I had a little interaction with a friend of mine who's a Chiefs fan, Corey the Artist Chief, who I actually want to give a shout out to because he's a diehard Chiefs fan, and he does a superb job with his little whatchamacallits, his work when it comes to paintings and whatnot. So honestly, I have to give a huge shout to him. So he actually posts funny little memes about the Chiefs, and he posted, I don't know the cartoon or the anime of this little picture, but it was some, like, I think the main protagonist slapping the main antagonist, and he said, "Sorry, Teran," and I'm like, I'm used to it by now. And he and I kind of had a little interaction on X or Twitter. He says, "I honestly don't hate your team," which I really think that's cool. "I felt your pain for 3 decades. It does seem like ownership just wants money and it does not care about the fans." And I agree. I think Chargers ownership needs to basically be accountable for this, and they have to get rid of Staley and make changes. They got the offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, which I think was great. Firing Joe Lombardi following the playoff loss to Jacksonville was a step in the right direction. It was a small step, however. The bigger step could have been firing Brandon Staley, because in his 3rd year, it's looking like the Chargers are not going to be playoff bound. And that's disappointing because they have good key pieces on their team. But sadly, I kind of feel like they're the Denver Broncos, except a little bit better. And this is where you just got to make changes. And this is where Black Monday comes in, where the Chargers just have to make their cuts. And honestly, Corey tells me this. He says, "It honestly seemed like our ownership gave up a very long time ago. One day Clark Hunt said it's time to win." And that's what Dean Spanos and, no offense to him, Tom Telesco need to realize. Because I'm actually good friends with the Telesco family. I've met the wife at my other job in retail. I know the kids, Thomas and Nick. They're really cool guys. So I can't diss the Telesco family too much, or Tom Telesco that much. I think Tom Telesco is doing all he can to basically try to make the Chargers into a full contender. But the problem is that they still have glaring pieces that are just really weighing the Chargers down. And the thing is, for the Chargers, they just can't imitate anybody. The Chiefs try to imitate the Patriots. It backfired. The Chargers can't try to imitate the Chiefs. Otherwise, the Chiefs are just going to find a new way to basically think, oh, the Chargers are trying to be like us. We know us more than anybody, so we're going to shut everything down, and we're going to beat the Chargers just like we do in years past. And honestly, this is the 16th time, and going back to the Chargers-Chiefs game, this is the 16th time out of 19 games that the Chargers have lost to the Chiefs. It's quite ridiculous. As a fan, I understand the Chiefs are a very good team. And we also got to remember that one of those wins against the Chiefs was kind of a throwaway game for the Chiefs, just because they were just sitting most of their starters and whatnot. But honestly, if you take away that game, that Week 17 game where the Chiefs had nothing to play for and they just wanted their players healthy, the Chargers have only won 2 times out of the last 18, which is extremely disappointing. I get it. The Chiefs have a really good defense. Their offense is out of this world. Andy Reid is a mastermind. But that doesn't mean the Chargers can get steamrolled multiple times. And you know what also doesn't help? Brandon Staley thinks he's this defensive guru, when in reality, he's a hack. He's playing zone defense against a Chiefs team that's going to be dropping back and hitting the ball to Travis Kelce, and maybe to like a few others. Maybe like a couple dump-off screens to Isaiah Pacheco, or maybe McCole Hardman or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But honestly, if you're playing zone defense against a team like the Chiefs, Mahomes is going to dissect that easily. Like, the dude had over 300 yards in the first half. I don't know what adjustments Brandon Staley made in the second half, but he should have had that. He should have made those adjustments in the second quarter, or whenever Travis Kelce was getting hot. Because Travis Kelce obviously has his big game against the Chiefs. And it really just sucks, dude. It just is very frustrating. It's just... I just don't understand. I just don't understand the Chargers against the Chiefs. I mean, the previous, 3 times I think it was, or 4 times, the Chargers came so close to beating the Chiefs. And then there was that one time where they did beat the Chiefs, though there was controversy. And it didn't help that Mahomes, I think there was 4 turnovers by the Chiefs. And then there was a few picks here and there from Mahomes. But honestly, it just gets to a point where you have to do something and you have to start eliminating what needs to be eliminating. Whether it's Brandon Staley or whether it's some of the other coaches. I think Kellen Moore is fine, albeit the offense was just so vanilla. And the Chargers just could not get their run game going against the Chiefs. And that goes back to what I was saying. The Chiefs have such a legit defense that they aren't going to let anything get in their way. Like, you could have the best offense in the world, but if you're having to give up multiple points and win in high-scoring affairs, and your defense is just being passive, it's not going to help you. So, the Chiefs are covering their bases while the Chargers are still in the shadows of Big Brother, a.k.a. Kansas City. All right. But over to this week's game for the Chargers. They will be back at SoFi for Sunday Night Football against the Chicago Bears. Now, it looks like on paper the Chargers are going to win this one just because the Bears don't have Justin Fields. Justin Fields is out with a thumb injury. I highly doubt he's going to play. If he somehow plays, then so be it. But here's the thing. The Bears' new quarterback is Tyler Bagent, or as many people call him, the Secret Bagent Man, which I think is a clever nickname. In his first start against the Raiders last week, the Bears wound up winning 30-12, which, again, it's the Raiders, so don't think that's a great win, because the Raiders' defense is complete pig slop, and I'll just say the Raiders made some questionable decisions, but more on that later. But honestly, for the Chargers, they have to win this one. I will go as far as to say, if this is not the game the Chargers win, I think Brandon Staley should be fired here, right there, right now. I just don't see how Brandon Staley can keep this job. I just don't understand why Dean Spanos and Tom Telesco want Brandon Staley. What is it that Brandon Staley has done this season that has made them say, oh, let's keep Brandon Staley for a little bit? He hasn't done anything. The dude thinks he is a football genius. The dude thinks he's a football genius, but in reality, he's a hack. Rex Ryan has ripped him. I'm pretty sure many talking heads in terms of the media have ripped him. So Brandon Staley is pretty much on the hot seat. I think this has to be the game where Tom Telesco and Dean Spanos have to give Brandon Staley the hook, because the Chargers are 2-4, and if they get to 2-5, that's pretty much game over from there. Because after that Bears game, it does not get easier for the Chargers. After the Bears, they've got the Jets in New York on Monday Night Football. Then they've got the Lions, which I know they got punched in the mouth by the Ravens, but the way the Lions have been playing mostly this year, I would not be surprised if the Lions beat the Chargers. Then the Chargers are at Green Bay, which that's a big-time matchup, even though the Packers stink. And again, it's a whole SoCal thing, why SoCal teams just struggle in Lambeau Field. Though that's a 10 a.m. game, so I imagine it's going to be cold and nippy up there. And then the Chargers have the Ravens on Sunday Night Football after the Packers, which the Ravens really punched the Lions in the mouth, and they are in contention for a division crown. Not the conference crown, the division crown, the AFC North. And then the Chargers have to go on the road over to the other side of the country to play the New England Patriots, which that falls on my birthday, and the Chargers have not beaten the Patriots in a hot minute with a starting quarterback. And the way that the Patriots kind of bounced back against the Bills with their offense, I would not be surprised if the Chargers kind of got dissected from Mac Jones. Like, the Chargers don't have a break in terms of level of opponents until they play the Broncos, and even that's not a guaranteed win. So all in all for the Chargers, they're running out of cupcake games because, heck, even the Jets are solid. Their defense, especially once they get back their cornerbacks Ed Reed and Sauce Gardner, I really think that the Jets are going to give the Chargers fits. And then everyone else that I just named off after the Jets, Lions, Packers, Ravens, and Patriots, I think they're going to give the Chargers a hard time. So but back to the Bears game. I was fearing that this game was going to be flexed out of primetime because the Bears stink and the Chargers stink. But props to NBC/Sunday Night Football for keeping this matchup. I mean, we'd like to see Justin Fields versus Justin Herbert, the battle of the Justins, but instead we got Tyler Bagent versus Justin Herbert. And for those of you that are wondering who Tyler Bagent is, he's an undrafted quarterback from this year's draft. And he actually hails from a Division II school. That being... Oh, no. I actually forgot what school that he came from. But he came from a Division II school. His last start prior to the Raiders start was against Colorado School of Mines, which is just mind-boggling. As he hails from Shepherd University, which... if you told me where that was, I wouldn't want to take any guesses. I'd have to look that up. That is actually in West Virginia in Shepherdstown. So, all in all for the Chargers, at least their defense is going to be a slight jump up from the Raiders. I know that defense, the Chargers defense, is just as bad as the Raiders defense, but honestly, there's no excuse. We need Khalil Mack to have another revenge game, kind of like he did against the Raiders a few weeks ago. We need Joey Bosa to actually do something big time. The offensive line really needs to protect Justin Herbert, and the Chargers just need to basically play loose, relaxed, and free. They're going to be on prime time, and if the Chargers lose this one, I just think the season is over at this point. Just because you'd be 2-5, you've got 5 opponents which are most likely, if not are, going to beat you, And then more importantly, if you lose all those games, you're basically done. And the Chargers' only wins are against a Vikings team, which was winless at the time, and then the Raiders, which was starting a rookie quarterback who hadn't had an NFL start prior to that. So I have the Chargers winning, and I really hope they can actually get their you-know-what together, because if they can't, I really just don't see how the Chargers make the playoffs this year. I have the Chargers winning 31-21. I really think the Chargers can pull out a 2-score win or more than a 1-score win, but knowing my luck, the Chargers are going to win like 31-28. But I got the Chargers winning 31-21. I think that sounds like a logical score. I really think Kellen Moore has to let the offense rip. And Brandon Staley, this is probably for his job, because if not, I really think that Dean Spanos and Tom Telesco have to give Brandon Staley the hook. All right, but that is that for the Chargers. That's just me being a Chargers fan, being frustrated. All right, now we got to go into college football, which was no better than the NFL. But I guess let's talk about the positives. UCLA just took Stanford to the shed. They carved those trees and turned them into sawdust, as UCLA wound up crushing Stanford on national TV, 42-7, and this game was over by the end of the third quarter, or not the end of the third quarter. By the time UCLA got to 35 points, it was 35-0, and heck, even Ethan Garbers was able to get the start, which I don't know what's happening with UCLA's quarterback room. If not, I mean, there was Dante Moore, who had 4 or 5 passes, but it looked like Ethan Garbers was basically the man in charge in this game. Maybe I didn't really get a chance to see this game all in its entirety, but I just saw that UCLA was just pounding the you-know-what out of Stanford. And for me, I just think that Ethan Garbers had his little come-out party. And yeah, Ethan Garbers got the start when it came to this game. So I don't know what Chip Kelly was thinking, but maybe he just needed to sit Dante Moore and just say, hey, you're not getting the job done. We need a little bit more experienced quarterback. And I know Ethan Garbers did have his struggles, but this was kind of his breath of fresh air game, because Stanford is a mess. They have not looked the same ever since David Shaw has stepped down, and now they just are a complete mess. Yes, they had the win over Colorado, but Colorado is not even close to being good yet. But the main thing about UCLA is that their run game was just so amazing, as Carson Steele had 3 rushing touchdowns as he finished with 76 yards. And altogether for UCLA, they had over 500 yards of offense, which that's pretty darn good. And they had 10 third downs, 10 for 18 on third downs, while holding Stanford to just only 1 third down, and no 4th down completions, which is pretty nice. And Stanford had 292 yards, which I guess is not that great, but yeah, what can you do? But the main thing for Stanford is that they had 10 penalties, and they had 113 yards worth of penalties. Well, UCLA only had half of Stanford's penalties and only had 40 yards worth of penalties. So, and we can't forget about this. UCLA didn't turn the ball over, and we didn't see a pick 6 late in the second quarter. So, all right, that's the good thing for UCLA. They beat a washed-up Stanford team. Now they get to return home to. Oh, by the way, that might be the last time we get to see UCLA Stanford. And there was a UCLA fan that brought this up to Martin Jamond, who is one of the, I don't think he's the athletic director, but he is one of the top administrators in terms of the athletics department at UCLA. I don't know his title altogether, but Martin Jamond is actually a big deal for UCLA. But one UCLA fan was like, I hope we can keep the Stanford-UCLA rivalry going even when Stanford leaves for the ACC. Because there are a lot of UCLA fans, and Martin Jamon was nice enough to reply to him or quote tweet him. He says, "We're going to do everything in our power to try to keep this rivalry going. We don't like the decision where everything is basically going apart, but it's out of our control." So I like that Martin Jamon didn't brush that under the rug. So good on him for basically addressing that. And I do hope that UCLA Stanford continues. It's going to feel weird seeing Stanford in the ACC. I'm just going to say that right now, but honestly, I hope we can't keep the UCLA-Stanford rivalry going. I think it would be cool. Anyway, so next up for UCLA is a home matchup against Colorado. If UCLA does win, they will be bowl game eligible, which I think is awesome sauce. If they're going to be bowl game eligible. The only way UCLA is not bowl game eligible is if they lose all of their remaining games. And if that happens, then Martin Jamon may have a lot of questions to ask in terms of UCLA football. Or a lot of questions to ask and questions to answer when it comes to the media. But against Colorado, look, I like Colorado's story. I like Coach Prime. I think he's legit. But here's the thing. Colorado, they're coming off a bye as well. That's another thing I got to factor in. But they're having to travel to the Rose Bowl to take on the Bruins. I really don't know if Colorado wins this one. I think UCLA wins this one. I think it's going to be an ugly game. I think it might be high scoring. My biggest question is, well, who does UCLA turn to? Do they turn to Ethan Garbers? Do they turn to Dante Moore? They actually started another quarterback. They actually had another quarterback play in the win over Stanford. It was just that ugly that UCLA had Chase Griffin in, who had a completed pass for 16 yards, which was nice. All right, but anyway, for UCLA, I have them winning. Let's get this out of the way. I have UCLA winning, no doubt about it. How much do I think they win by? I think they win 28-24. I want to say it's going to be a mixed bag. I think maybe Colorado jumps out, but then UCLA works the kinks out, and then they just put together a great game in the second half, and they just win it 28-24. I feel it might be close. That's cutting it way too close. But surprisingly, UCLA is 17-point favorites. I just think that UCLA is going to have a little bit tough of a time with Colorado, but I just think that UCLA has enough horses in the back to basically pull away from Colorado. And I'm sure that's going to be the case. And then as for USC, all right, I'm getting really sick of USC and how its defense sucks. USC lost to Utah. Look, here's the thing. I know Utah is good. Kyle Whittingham is a fantastic coach. But there were many glaring problems with this loss. One, the defense gave up 34 points. And keep in mind, Utah did not have Cam Rising. Cam Rising, funny thing is that someone actually, I think it was a USC fan, or any college football fan, I saw at my second job, my retail job, he was like, is Cam Rising ever going to play again? And now he kind of said that as a little bit of a joke, but it's like, well, he kind of tore his ACL in the Rose Bowl game, and those are tough to tough to recover from. And heck, he might have had a full tear in his ACL. It might have been his PCL, and as well as other parts in his ACL and his knee. So it sucks, but it is what it is, and I hope Cam Rising does have a speedy recovery. The poor guy definitely does not deserve to go out like that. But here's the thing. USC made Bryson Barnes look like Patrick Mahomes, and it's so disappointing. Bryson Barnes had 3 touchdown passes. He only threw for 235 yards, and he did get picked off once, but only once. My big other problem is that Jaquindon Johnson also ran for 117 rushing yards. He didn't have any touchdown rushes, but honestly, it was just so sickening. But another big problem was Barnes late in the fourth quarter. USC was basically trying to get the the stop to either prevent Utah from kicking the field goal or getting closer to kick a field goal. But Barnes was able to scramble for a first down and then some, as it got Utah into closer field goal range, and it eventually allowed Utah to walk off with a walk-off field goal. Utah's rushing. Utah had 247 rushing yards, and they also had 235 passing yards. 247 rushing yards. When I clearly said that USC needed to defend the run. And also, Utah had Sion Vaki have 68 rushing yards. So, this is just another one of those disappointing moments. But it doesn't end there. It gets worse when it comes to this game. Caleb Williams, while he didn't make any mistakes, the dude straight up was not overly flashy. The dude only had 256 passing yards, 0 touchdowns. He didn't get picked off, and he was 24 for 34. And this was basically dependent on the run game for the most part, as USC had 145 rushing yards. Marshawn Lloyd led the way with 86 rushing yards and a touchdown on the ground. And there was also Zachariah Branch with a 1-yard score, and Caleb Williams with a touchdown run. And then also Caleb Williams had 27 rushing yards. At least they got Taj Washington involved, which he was kind of their main target with 112 receiving yards. But after that, it was just a major drop-off, as their next receiving leader had 35. Well, 2 of their receivers had 35 receiving yards. So I don't think this was all on Caleb Williams, but he wasn't really his flashiest. He did have a touchdown, I'll give him that, and he did help USC take the lead, but unfortunately, USC's defense straight up is sucky. It's trash. I don't understand. And I get it. Bear Alexander was called for a targeting penalty, which eventually got him kicked out. However, I don't think that was the game right there. I don't think that targeting penalty was the game. And I hate to basically say that I don't like putting game losses on one play. I really think that the loss was basically on all of USC just basically making Bryson Barnes look super legit. And it's very disappointing because I think USC has so much potential, but their defense is what's holding them back from achieving that potential. And this is where you kind of have to fire Alex Grinch. This is literally every week with Alex Grinch. The USC defense will never, ever, 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 ever be good again until USC gets rid of Alex Grinch. It was terrible against Arizona State. It was really terrible against Colorado. It was extremely terrible against Arizona. It was very, very terrible against Notre Dame, even though Caleb Williams wasn't his best. And then it was just as bad in Utah. USC has given up 30-plus points in the past 4 games. It's that disappointing. I don't understand why Lincoln Riley or anyone on USC's athletic administration wants to keep Alex Grinch. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like watching the Chargers again. It just really is terrible. So USC needs to get its head out of its you-know-what and actually make changes. Otherwise, USC is never going to be a true contender, especially when they move to the Big Ten. Anyway, USC is back in action as they hit the road to Berkeley to take on Cal at 1 p.m. So USC is a 10.5 point favorite. I want to say USC is going to win this one because if they find some way to belly flop on this one, I just don't understand why. I mean, it's against Cal. You can't expect me to believe that USC is going to lose this one. But here's the thing. USC had struggles against Arizona State and Colorado, and they weren't even ranked, as well as Arizona, even though I think Arizona is vastly underrated. So for USC, they actually have to get their heads out of their you-know-whats and actually play some gosh dang football. Otherwise, they might actually lose, because after that game, they have no more cupcakes remaining. They've got Washington the week after, they've got Oregon the week after that, and then they've got UCLA to close out the season. So for USC, I would really advise you to actually stop playing down your competition. It's stupid. And I know Utah was ranked ahead of USC. However, they had a second-string quarterback. I know Bryson Barnes is somewhat legit. However, his only college start this season was against Cal. And that's not even remotely close to a legit opponent. They made him look like Patrick Mahomes and Michael Vick without the dog fights and whatnot. But I think USC is going to bounce back, but they're going to need their offense to basically win in a high-scoring affair. I think USC wins 35-24. That sounds about right. I think USC eventually lets their defense... USC's defense eventually kind of allows Cal to slip through the cracks. But honestly, I just think that USC is going to win this one. If they find a way to lose to Cal, there will be punishment beyond belief. Speaking of punishment, all right, last FBS game, and it comes from San Diego State. Remember how I said there's no way San Diego State is going to lose this game to a then-winless Nevada? Well, I was wrong. San Diego State found a way to not only go lower, but they managed to sink to even the lowest of lows. They lost to Nevada, which was previously 0-6, 6-0. 6-0. Yeah, I'm ultimately disappointed in myself. If you're a San Diego State fan, you got to be very disgusted with this effort. It's like San Diego State's offense wasn't even there. It's so disappointing. San Diego State barely had 200 yards of offense. And the thing is, Nevada didn't even kick a touchdown to win. All their points came in field goals via the first half. One field goal in the first quarter, and then the second field goal in the second quarter to basically put them up 6-0. But the worst part about this is that the offense was simply not there. And the defense is probably looking down at the offense saying, really? We hold these guys to 6 points. We bust our butts off defensively, only to see us lose at home to a then-winless Nevada team. And it gets worse for this loss. San Diego State lost to Nevada, who had lost 16 in a row dating back to last season. San Diego State needs to make some gosh dang changes, as this is the most disappointing loss I've ever seen in college football. San Diego State should be relegated to the FCS after this. Just absolute bullcrap, dude. Jalen Maiden had more rushing yards than passing yards. Is Brady Hoke trying to get fired? Is he literally running Joe Lombardi's playbook from last year when he was with the Chargers? I think he is. Because honestly, I'm no San Diego State fan, but this is a gosh dang embarrassment, and Jalen Maiden is being out to fail. He's getting set up to fail. This is despicable. 6 for 14 passes. Only 47 passing yards. A quarterback rating of 3.8. That is criminal right there. Criminal. And again, like I said, Jalen Maiden had more rushing yards than passing yards. I just don't understand why San Diego State just does not want to get an actual running back to do the job. I get it. Maybe Jalen Maiden has that athletic ability like Lamar Jackson. But honestly, you're going to get him killed. It's going to be a disaster if he keeps having to lead the team in rushing yards. You have other rushing leaders. You've got Lucky Sutton, Cam Davis, maybe Keenan Christon. And yet you're having your quarterback having to step up and try to lead the team in rushing yards and try to lead them to points. This is just sick right there. San Diego State ought to be ashamed of themselves. As I welcome Jen B in the chat room. Thanks for tuning in, Jen. But I just don't understand. Nevada had lost 16 in a row. And funny, I mentioned the other Mountain West Conference teams. I saw a Hawaii fan who follows the Set Point account. He was like, I'm now seeing that Hawaii is no longer the saddest team in the Mountain West Conference, as Nevada scored 6 points against San Diego State. Or something along those lines. And Hawaii is at the bottom of the totem pole, as they gave up 42 to New Mexico. So I just don't understand why San Diego State has such a vanilla offense. This is the game where their defense actually did something, but their offense was nowhere to be existent. You couldn't even find their offense on a milk carton that says missing, San Diego State offense, reward found, if found. But honestly, and also, you got shut out. That's the most disappointing thing. A shutout against an 0-6 team that had lost 16 in a row dating back to last season. I don't get you, San Diego State. I don't get why your offense is that of a Division III team. And that's actually an insult to Division III teams because they could have put up more points against a winless Nevada team than this poor San Diego State team. It's so despicable. I just really feel for the athletes. Brady Hoke, I think, needs to be fired. He should have been fired after that game. He is the worst version of Brandon Staley. He's Brandon Staley 2.0. I could go as farther down to say maybe Freddie Kitchens. But even he wouldn't be that incompetent against a winless team like that. I just don't get it. It's like Josh McDaniels and Brandon Staley had a baby, and this baby turned out to being Brady Hoke. Rocky Long would never, ever let this offense put up a bagel against an 0-6 Nevada team. It just doesn't make sense. Anyway, before I lose my mind on San Diego State, I just can't believe that. You put up 41 the previous week against Hawaii on the road, and then you come back home to Snapdragon Stadium just to put up nothing in front of your fans. I'm surprised we even have fans at this point, because that's just despicable. God have mercy on my soul. They'll be talked about a little bit later as San Diego State has another... Actually, no, they get a bye, and thank you for having a bye because we'll get to see you embarrass yourselves on TV or in front of your fans again. So San Diego State is back in action when they host Utah State. At this point, I don't even know what to expect with San Diego State anymore. Their next three opponents have 3 wins. Well, not 3 combined wins, but they're all 3-5. Well, Colorado is 3-4, but you get what I mean. But I just don't know what to expect with the San Diego State team. One week they're going to look like they're actually legit. One week they're going to look like their defense is going to give up points that are on sale at a clearance retail store. And then just altogether, it just looks so bad for San Diego State. And they're going to lose commits. They're going to lose players because they don't want to play for that garbage. And San Diego State needs to be careful because if they lose 2 more games, they're no longer bowl eligible. And if that happens, the San Diego State Athletics needs to actually fire Brady Hoke because that's an embarrassment beyond embarrassment. And I don't know what Rocky Long is doing. Last I saw of him, he was the offensive coordinator at Syracuse, but I want to say that's even worse. Syracuse is even worse. So... yeah, Rocky Long is... yeah, he's the defensive coordinator. Sorry. He's 73 years old, though, so he's up there in age, dude. But, man, oh, man. I'd rather have Rocky Long as head coach than Brady Hoke. Like, this is a joke, dude. Brady Hoke, more like Brady Joke, if you ask me. Am I right? Yeah, I think I'm right. But at least San Diego State doesn't play this week, so we have to die. But I actually do want to see how good Syracuse... oh, Syracuse is... well, they're 4-3, but they're 0-3 in ACC play. So, and they gave up 41 and 42, North Carolina and Florida State. Though those teams are good. And they gave up 31 to Clemson. So, yeah, bring back Rocky Long. Just please bring him back. Bring anyone to this team. Heck, I wouldn't even mind if San Diego State had Adam Gase at this point. Oh my god. Alright, let's stop talking about San Diego State. It's really not fun anymore. It's bad, dude. Anyway, so San Diego, the FCS version of San Diego State, wound up losing to Drake 25-20 on its home floor at Torero Stadium. That's not surprising, but it's extremely disappointing. And you want to know what else I'm disappointed in when it comes to San Diego, the University of San Diego and its football team? Well, remember that hazing incident that happened earlier in the season, which got a bunch of players suspended, and which led to the loss against Colorado Mesa? Yeah, Colorado Mesa, a Division II school. And you gotta remember, San Diego is a private, exclusive Christian school. So, and what's even worse is that a former University of San Diego quarterback is suing the school alleging sexual hazing in the residence hall and locker room. I'm not going to go into full details on that, but that's still just straight up disappointing. So, oh boy. San Diego, you done messed up with that whole hazing scandal. And you went from being respectable to losing all of my respect. You went from being a lolcow to being an extreme lolcow. Like, your lolcowdom began when you lost to Colorado Mesa. And I don't care if you had, like, half your team suspended. You should have been actually smarter than that. Your players should have been smarter than that. And it seems like there might be someone that's going to be losing jobs here and there. Anyway, so San Diego is back in action this Saturday when they host Morehead State. Like, at this point, I'm not even going to bother predicting for San Diego. Knowing them, they probably have more players out due to suspension. So let's just move on to Cal Poly, as Cal Poly almost did the unthinkable. They almost pulled a San Diego State as they wound up edging Northern Colorado 24-17. And, well, I will say this. It was close through three quarters, as, believe it or not, Northern Colorado had the lead two different times. But thankfully for Cal Poly, they were able to, adjust. And eventually they got Bryson Allen scoring early in the fourth quarter, and Cal Poly's defense was able to clamp down. But they should have won that one by way more. Like, it's almost as bad as San Diego State losing to Nevada. But at least Cal Poly is not losing to winless teams like San Diego State did. Anyway, so Cal Poly is on bye this week, as they'll be back in action on November 4th against East Washington. But that won't be until later. All right, so let's jump on into some NWSL action, as... Man, I didn't want this team's season to end so quickly. But Angel City's season came to an end as they wound up losing to OL Reign in the first round of the NWSL playoffs, as they lost 1-0. This was kind of a tight one, as unfortunately for Angel City, they gave up a goal in the 87th minute to Veronica Latsko, and it's just heartbreaking for Angel City. They did all that. They wound up going 3 months without losing a match. Becky Tweed took over and eventually guided this team to the playoffs after the firing of their previous head coach. But all in all, for Angel City, their season does come to an end in the first round. It would have been so great if Angel City had advanced, because that would have been the team of destiny right there. That would have legit been the team of destiny, and I really think that it would have... I think it would have been great to see Angel City and Wave FC do battle, but instead we're going to get OL Reign versus Wave FC. And I did not know this. OL Reign has Megan Rapinoe and Jess Fishlock. Well, Megan Rapinoe is the one that really stands out, so... Ooh. But it's all good, as after this year, Megan Rapinoe is going to call it a career. So, yeah. But it's a tough loss for Angel City, which this really stinks, because I really wanted to see Wave FC and Angel City. And I got to give credit to Angel City. They finished really strong, and I thought they were dead in the water after they just gave the boot to their head coach. And you gotta admit, Becky Tweed only lost 2 matches in her span following taking over from Freya Coombs. And according to ESPN, why Angel City won't win: Angel City likes to push its fullbacks into the attack and play with an aggressive front line that often looks like a forefront. and then that leaves space in wide areas for the Reign to attack in transition, and that's the last thing the Reign did. So, it sucks, but it's sports sometimes, and at least Angel City got to the playoffs. Again, they had to basically boiled down to the final day of the regular season, as Angel City wound up crushing Portland, which eventually now no longer matters, as now, maybe that's probably the case. Angel City just used up all their goals against Portland, which really sucks, but it is what it is sometimes. Sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce your way, and eventually you just don't get that one kick which can save your season. So, and also it doesn't help that they were on the road, but it is what it is. Angel City's won on the road, so. All right, but over to Wave FC. They will be taking on OL Reign at Snapdragon Stadium, which is going to be fun times for Angel City, or for Wave FC. Now, I don't know what time that'll be at, or what day that'll be, but I imagine it might be this weekend because they want to get ready for the NWSL Cup finals. If not, the final's going to be next weekend. So, but I do have to basically give a tip of the cap to Angel City for basically turning everything around. But honestly, I just am heartbroken for them. I just really wish that they would have won, but sometimes it's just how it is. And Wave FC and OL Reign will not be playing this weekend, but the following weekend on Sunday, November 5th in the NWSL semifinals, where the winner will play the winner of Gotham and the Portland Thorns. If I was a betting man, I'd probably say Portland's going to win that one, just because Portland always has a great team, and I've always seen the Portland Thorns as a juggernaut. Meanwhile, for Wave FC, look, they got to be consistent in this game. They were consistent in the previous game against Orlando, I'm sorry, not Orlando, Louisville. Both teams were wearing purple, but Wave has to be really consistent. They have to really be on their X's and O's and their P's and Q's, and they got to make sure they take down OL Reign, because OL Reign's a pretty solid team. They just can't underestimate them. So we'll see what happens, and we'll just preview that a little bit more down the road. But all in all, for Wave FC, I think this one's going to be a little bit of a tough one. But you got to remember, if you're Wave FC, if you win your semifinal game, you get to host the NWSL finals. So play your cards right, and then you will get the big payout. As we welcome Marcus Loves Great in the chat room, he says, salute. I appreciate you popping in, my brother. All right, so let's quickly discuss some MLS, as we'll eventually head to a commercial break following that. All right, so for LAFC, they tied with Vancouver on the road 1-1, as sadly that was not enough to get them to the 2 seed, as Seattle wound up beating St. Louis 2-0 on the road. Go figure. Thanks, St. Louis. As LAFC finished third in the Western Conference, right behind Seattle, because Seattle got 3 points, and LAFC, which had 51 points coming in, they only got 1, so the point total is in favor of Seattle. So, as for LAFC, they will be the 3 seed of the playoffs as they look to defend their MLS Cup championship, as they play a familiar foe in, you guessed it, Vancouver. So, the previous matchup was in Vancouver. Now, this matchup is going to be in Los Angeles. It's going to be at the BMO Stadium. So, it's not BMO Stadium, it's actually BMO. So, I still like Bank of California Stadium better. Like, who comes up with these changes? So, I hope LAFC can pull out the win, as that'll be this Saturday at 5 p.m. And then I guess we can close the book on the Galaxy. They wound up losing, to no one's surprise, to FC Dallas, as they lost 4-1. Yeah, great way to end the season, Galaxy. The season is finally over, as they did not win one game in the month of October. Not one, to quote Cat Williams, as they went an entire month without picking up a win. All their other matches were ties and losses. So disappointing end to the Galaxy as they finished near the bottom of the Western Conference standings. But it is what it is. All right, but that's going to do it for some MLS. I know I had to breeze through that, but we're already an hour into this. We're going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we will discuss some NBA and some NHL and give out Dum Dum of the Week. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, sports fans? You're listening to IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your favorite West Coast Wisconsinite, Bernie Bango, and if you're a cheesehead, come listen to my show, Big Cheese Sports, where we road trip around America's Dairyland, previewing, reviewing, predicting, debating, and digging into all that is Wisconsin sports at the college and pro levels. Join me on IE Sports Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard. Bernie out.
Well, what is up, Carolina Nation? This is John Felipe of the Carolina Cast, of course, the podcast of, by, and for the Carolinas, right here on IE Sports, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'm reminding you to tune in Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern for the latest in Carolina sports, whether it's the Panthers that keep on pounding, the fly natures of the Hornets, the storming Hurricanes, the battle of the Blues with Duke and UNC, the fight of the Clemson Tigers, or the amazing atmosphere of any Carolina college. I'm talking App State, I'm talking ECU. I've got you covered. Once again, tune in for the Carolina Cast with me, John Felipe, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right. Welcome to AZ Sports Daily. I'm your host, Kiernan Daly, bringing the heat to Arizona sports. There's no discrimination here. We're going to talk about every sports team, professional and college. The show is all about you, the listener. I'm here to entertain you. Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here? It's going to be fun, high energy. You may not agree with what I say. That's okay. Let me hear you. Let's talk about it. Join me every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on AZ Sports Daily. That's AZ Sports, D-A-L-E-Y, and at IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What up, Boston sports fans? This is Mikey Two Guns here, your host of Our Bleepin' City, airing every Wednesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Please join me. We'll talk everything Boston sports, all the local teams, college teams. I'm even down to talk MMA, boxing, whatever you guys want. So join me every Wednesday night, 7 to 8 p.m. Chime in with your questions on the chat, tweet the show. We'll even have call-ins. I can't wait to hear from you guys. This is going to be a lot of fun. So once again, it's Our Bleepin' City. I am your host, Mikey Two Guns, every Wednesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. See you soon, people.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all of that sports. Check out all of our amazing shows on the network. As we are back with the second half of our show, sorry if I took a little bit of an extended break. I had a little bit of an emergency to take care of, but it is all good. As let's get on into that second half. So we have the NBA to cover, and I'm not looking forward to the Lakers-Clippers seasons, but we have to go over it just because the NBA nowadays no longer plays defense. So the Lakers on Tuesday, they kicked off its season as they played visitor to the Denver Nuggets, the reigning champion Denver Nuggets. And I really, really hate how the Lakers always seem to be the opponent for all of these teams that win their championship. I understand the Lakers bring in a lot of views and money, but honestly, why they gotta do the Lakers like this? Thanks, NBA. So, unfortunately for the Lakers, they wound up losing to the Nuggets 119-107. LeBron James led the way with 21 points, which I guess is good. All their starters were in double digits, which is nice, but they didn't really have the most explosive games, as Taurean Prince had 18 points, Anthony Davis had 17 points, Austin Reeves 14 points, and D'Angelo Russell had 11 points. Other than that, there wasn't really anyone so splashy, as 3 out of the 4 Denver Nuggets starters had had 20 points, as all of their starters had double digits in points. As Nikola Jokic had 29 points. He actually had a triple-double with 13 boards and 11 assists, so yeah, that's not good for the Lakers, but 81 more games left to get it right. Get themselves right. As Mikey Two Guns popped in the chat room, he says, "What's up, my man?" Hey, Mikey. He is the host of our Bleepin' City, our Boston show on IE Sports Radio. Check him out every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern. He does an excellent job with his show. As we got to jump to some Clippers now. Well, actually, hold up. Wait a minute. We got to preview some of the Lakers games, as the Lakers are back at it tonight when they host the Phoenix Suns. It's going to be a tough one because those Suns are pretty good, and they just beat the Warriors on their opening night. Then the Lakers head down to Sacktown to take on the Sacramento Kings on Sunday, and then they close out the month of October against Orlando on Monday, which, yeah, it's probably going to be somewhat good. And then next Wednesday, the Lakers and the Clippers face one another. And that's perfect segue to go into the Clippers and how they did in their season opener. So, to no one's surprise, they beat the Portland Trail Blazers, which I figured they would. I just didn't think that they would make it a little bit closer in the fourth quarter, as they gave up 38 points to the Trailblazers. And remember, this is a Trailblazers team that said au revoir to Damian Lillard, but it's all good. Paul George led the way with 27 points in the Clippers' 123-111 win over the Trailblazers as they won at the Crypto.com Arena. Soon, the Clippers will no longer be sharing the same stadium or the same gymnasium with the Lakers, which is nice. As also another player that stepped up in the Clippers win was Kawhi Leonard, who had 23 points. My thing is for Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, hopefully for their sake, they could be healthy for the most part. Hopefully they could be healthy for most of the season. As Davidson Crooks said on Fast Break, which I highly doubt you check out, that is our basketball show on IE Sports Radio, if you're having to bank on Paul George and Kawhi Leonard being healthy for most of the season, especially in a competitive division that is the Pacific Division and a Western Conference, which is kind of top-heavy and it's getting better and better, then you might be up a creek without a paddle. But Kawhi Leonard had 23 points, while Ivica Zubac had 20 points. Russell Westbrook, I can't believe he's still with the Clippers. He had 11 points to go along with 13 assists. So, in typical Clippers fashion, they are finding ways to work off of the Lakers' throwaways or the late former Laker players and revive their careers. Also, another player that stood out was Bones Highland, who, yeah, that's his name, Bones Highland. He went to VCU. He had 17 points off the bench in just 22 minutes, which is pretty nice. So, good on the Clippers for their first win of the season, as the Clippers will be heading down to Salt Lake City to take on the Utah Jazz on Friday, and then Clippers host the San Antonio Spurs on Sunday. Then on Halloween, the Clippers will host the Orlando Magic, and after that, like I said, the Clippers and Lakers take on one another next Wednesday. And then the Clippers won't have another game until they play the Knicks, which I imagine that's probably going to be it's not their Grammy road trip, but it's kind of the beginning of their road trip. They're multiple road trips, but all in all, good start for the Clippers, though I figured they would beat the Trailblazers. I felt that the Trailblazers without Damian Lillard is going to have a whole different feel, and it's just a whole bunch of them having to get used to not having Dame Dollars on the team. But it is what it is, as that's how the Clippers took care of business, as Malcolm Brogdon led the Trailblazers with 20 points. Believe it or not, all those points came off the bench, so yeah, that shows where the Trailblazers are going this season. Anyway, that's that for the NBA portion of the show. Now to jump to some NHL. Yeah. So the Ducks are actually looking kind of promising. Notice how I said the word kind of promising, as their most recent game saw them beating the Columbus Blue Jackets 3-2, as they had to win in comeback fashion, as they eventually won it in overtime, but they were able to win it with a late goal with about 2 minutes 20 seconds left before they had to go to the dreaded shootout. But regardless, Anaheim wound up winning, beating the Columbus Blue Jackets, which isn't a bad win if you ask me. And I'm sorry to Gen B, I'm sorry if I have to bring that up. Please forgive me. The Ducks kind of needed that win, as their previous 3 games, they had wound up losing to the Boston Bruins at home 3-1. They also lost to the Arizona Coyotes on the road 2-1. This was on Sunday and Saturday. And then last Thursday, the Ducks wound up losing to the Dallas Stars 3-2. So they needed a bit of a snap out of it game after they beat the Carolina Hurricanes, which was their first win in their coach's tenure. Their new coach's tenure. But now the Ducks are traveling to Beantown to take on the Boston Bruins again tonight, or today, at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Then Saturday, the Ducks head down to the land of brotherly love to take on the Philadelphia Flyers. And then Monday, the Ducks will they'll stay in Pennsylvania, and then they'll play the Pittsburgh Penguins, which I always find that a pretty tough game. And then next Wednesday, the Ducks host the Coyotes, and then I guess the following Sunday, they will be hosting the Vegas Golden Knights, the reigning champion Vegas Golden Knights. And yes, Mikey, go Bruins. I still can't believe the Bruins got bounced in the first round. I'm sorry, but I just felt the odd vibe that the Bruins were going to find a way to mess up. But I'm sorry to bring that up. I just still I can't believe they wound up losing with all that talent. But I digress. Anyway, jumping over to the Kings. Well, the Kings, to me, they they're doing solid. They're third in the Pacific Division. They're 3-2-1. As their most recent game, they defeated the Arizona Coyotes 6-3. But against the Boston Bruins last Saturday, they wound up getting bounced 4-2 at the Crypto.com Arena. And then last Thursday, they took down the Minnesota Wild by a football score of 7-3. And I'm sorry, Mikey, I had to go there. My bad, dog. As this Friday, or tomorrow, as of this recording, the Kings will be hitting the road to the Cactus State to take on the Arizona Coyotes. Then the day after, the Kings will be returning home to take on the reigning champion Golden Knights. And then Tuesday on ESPN, the Kings will be heading down to Canada, to take on the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm sorry to all that are Canadians. And then the Kings will remain in Canada as they play at the Ottawa Senators. And then next Saturday, the Kings head down to Philly, the land of cheesesteaks, to take on the Philadelphia Flyers. So, better start for the Kings, as they've got more expectations than the Ducks do. I'll just say it like that. But it's all about chasing the likes of the Vegas Golden Knights, as well as the Vancouver Canucks, who are solid. And then there are some other teams that are pretty solid in the Pacific Division. But that is going to do it for the NHL portion of the show. I don't think there's anything else ultimately to talk about in terms of main topics. But before we get on out of here, I have to give out the Dum Dum of the Week. So the Dum Dum of the Week is an award I like to give out to those, or to an organization or person that does something stupid. And basically, no one is safe from this award. Anyone can get this award, and basically whoever does something dumb to the extent of why would anyone do that is getting this award. So I actually have, if I am not mistaken, 2 Dum Dums of the Week that I have to give out. Yes, 2 Dum Dums of the Week. So, if you all remember from last week's show, I made a promise that if for some odd reason San Diego State were to lose to Nevada, they would be Dum Dum of the Week. Well, I certainly did not forget, because I still don't understand how San Diego State wound up losing. It's still, to this day, up to now, it just doesn't make any sense. I really don't understand how San Diego State lost to Nevada. Because like I said, their offense was so vanilla. The defense did everything in its power to straight up keep Nevada at bay, in terms of, and they can keep them out of the end zone. But the offense was just not there. It's bad for San Diego State when their quarterback has to lead them in rushing yards, as he only had 52, which is straight up garbage if you ask me. Absolute garbage truck juice. Absolute garbage water. So I pretty much said what I needed to say earlier on, but I'm just so disappointed in San Diego State football. You just can't lose to an opponent like that. And remember, Nevada had lost 16 in a row dating back to last season, and they wound up winning with just 2 field goals. So I just really don't understand why San Diego State wound up losing. That might be the lowest point of their program. Losing to a winless team, and despite giving up only 6 points, you failed to score on your home field. I don't need to go over the rant that I went over earlier in the show, but San Diego State really needs to make changes. And if it means getting rid of Brady Hoke, get him out of there. He has no reason to still be here. And I'm just so disappointed in the San Diego State football program, especially for those that want to commit to San Diego State football. They don't deserve this. So Brady Hoke has to make changes, or he has to get out of there. But like I promised y'all last week, San Diego State football is the Dum Dum of the Week, because they lost to a then-winless Nevada team who lost 16 straight back to the previous season, and Nevada was 0-6 going into this game. And funny enough, Nevada won 6-0, which resembles their record to opposing teams this season. So, San Diego State football, you are Dum Dum of the Week, and there is no debate on it. How dare you lose to a winless team? You deserve to be relegated.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Kawhi Leonard, why are you laughing at your former alma mater? I'm kidding. Yeah, you deserve to laugh at your former alma mater for that. But now we gotta get on into Dumb Dumb of the Week number 2. And, okay, I don't understand this, but I will also just kind of understand this. This one actually goes down to Sin City. And I hate to give this out to whoever thought it was a good idea to start this guy, but the Raiders decided to start. Remember how I said the Raiders lost to Tyler Bagent and the Chicago Bears? Well, I never told you who they started at quarterback. They started Brian Hoyer at quarterback because Jimmy G was still out with back spasms. You started Brian Hoyer. Now, if you didn't hear the Chicago version of this, where Adam Karnick breaks down the Raiders' loss to the Chicago Bears, Brian Hoyer is basically the quarterback version of a toddler. The dude straight up stunk. And I don't understand why anyone would start Brian Hoyer. He's not a good quarterback. At least Aiden O'Connell got the Raiders close to a victory when they almost beat the Chargers. But Josh McDaniels starting Brian Hoyer is a dummy. He's straight up dumb. Brian Hoyer is not going to give you the win. At least O'Connell is young and spry, and he has a start. Brian Hoyer has not had a start. Tell me the logic of starting Old Man Hoyer. And yes, Marcus, Old Man Hoyer is still in the league. I really, really think that Josh McDaniels is trying to copy and paste the New England Patriots from back in the olden days. But guess what? It's not working. Brian Hoyer is old, dude. You want to go with someone fresh. It just does not make any sense. Yet you decide to start him against the Bears, who also were struggling. I get it. It was probably a get-right game to maybe boost his confidence. But you're starting an old Brian Hoyer against a Bears team who I guess has some stars defensively and is starting a Division II quarterback. I know the Raiders defense is still a liability because even though I thought maybe the Raiders defense was kind of their selling point, but they just gave up 30 to freaking Tyler Bagent, aka the secret Bagent man. And Josh McDaniels, he might be worse than Brandon Staley, considering the Chargers beat the Raiders, but I will just say this. There is no logic in starting old man Brian Hoyer. Start Aiden O'Connell, who almost got you the win. Because at this point, if Jimmy Garoppolo can't go this weekend, you got to go with the one that gives your team a better chance. And I give Josh McDaniels a little credit. He put in Aiden O'Connell, but it was too little too late. O'Connell should have been the guy to start from the get-go, but instead, you decided to start old man Brian Hoyer, who... Heck, who in the words of Adam Karnick is who basically is the equivalent of a toddler at quarterback. So I just don't understand the logic, dude. But then again, it's Josh McDaniels. So yes, Gen B, the poor AFC West only has one team with a real head coach, and that just so happens to be Andy Reid. Every other coach, and I told this to the Chiefs fan that interacted with me on Tuesday, he said actually I think it was Monday. I basically said Brandon Staley, Josh McDaniels, and Sean Payton are basically battling to see who's the best of the worst, aka the second best coach of the AFC West, which that's a far second from Andy Reid. But to Josh McDaniels for starting Brian Hoyer over Aiden O'Connell against the Bears, shame on you. I am certainly no Raiders fan, but there's no logic in starting Brian Hoyer. Start the fresh meat. At least Aiden O'Connell, like I said, Aiden O'Connell at least had a start. At least he gave the Raiders a chance against the Chargers. And he was just a split second away from actually tying the game up against the Chargers, because that Chargers defense was not doing anything, and the offense certainly wasn't doing anything. But Josh McDaniels, you are a hack, you are an idiot, you are a dummy, and you are this week's Dumb of the Week number 2.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
I just don't understand why Josh McDaniels has a job. And I actually do want to know, who gets fired first? Brandon Staley of the Chargers or Josh McDaniels of Raiders? I would imagine it'd be Brandon Staley, and I'm basically going to call this. If the Chargers lose to the Bears on Sunday, Brandon Staley gets the hook. Because at least he's had some time to prepare. And I know the Raiders have had a merry-go-round of coaches following John Gruden with Rich Bisaccia, but Rich Bisaccia at least took the Raiders to the playoffs following John Gruden getting the hook. Josh McDaniels is a hack. So, there you go. But on that note, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Ladies and gentlemen, it is high time we get on out of here, because my throat is about to give out on me. You dig? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate everybody that tuned in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Jen B in the chat room says, probably Staley, regarding my question on who's going to get fired first. But I'll never understand why anyone would want Josh McDaniels. And the Colts dodged a bullet when it came to not wanting Josh McDaniels back in those days. But anyway, thank you to Jen B, as well as Marcus Los Great, Mikey Two Guns, and Larry B for popping in. I really do appreciate y'all tuning into the chat room. I imagine maybe next Thursday, maybe Friday, I'll probably be back with the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. It all depends on what my work schedule looks like, both of my work schedules, because I live a busy life, but it is all good. We will make it work, because I'm the man that makes things, that tries his best to make everything work in its entirety. Even if it means I gotta go early Saturday, after 3 and out, college edition. But we'll see. But until then, have yourself a great rest of the week. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Enjoy the weekend. Lakers and Clippers basketball is back. You don't have to deal with San Diego State football this week and how they're probably going to fail to score again. But it's all good. And yes, Marcus Lowe's great. It's hard out here for a pimp. But you can choose to make it hard or a little bit easier on yourself. But have a great week, everybody. And remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace!